Isekai anime refers to shows where a failed protagonist is reborn in a new world as the most overpowered person. It's by far one of the most overused and unbearable genres nowadays. If you look at the number of anime released each season, at least 30% are exclusively isekai. And that's only using the lowest numbers. The thing is, with the huge number of anime in the genre that exists nowadays, it's getting more and more difficult to innovate. Honestly, they never really put much effort into being original. And that's just talking about anime, because if we get into the topic of light novels, that's a whole different world. An anime, it's the outcome of many people's work to deliver a product. But a light novel of this style could be written by any life-weary fetishist otaku with a bit of a desire for fantasy. And as I said, with the huge competition in the genre, it's becoming more and more difficult to innovate, to the point that we end up with things like this. I was reincarnated as a vending machine. An anime became popular a few years ago for its absurd premise, and today we'll watch it together. Although I'm sure there are dozens of anime out there with weird premises that I could review, and I'm sure you would love them. The story starts when our protagonist wakes up in another world after a fatal accident. However, when he wakes up, all our protagonist sees is a large lake and surrounding forest. Fortune has smiled on him, letting him live another day. But after realizing he survived and noticing where he is, he realizes he can't move since he currently has no body parts to move. Because when he looks down, the only thing his eyes can see is a metal plate that apparently is now part of his body. And it's not because he turned into some kind of transformer, but because he has become a vending machine. I get that isekai has become overused in anime lately. Since over half of each season's anime are in this genre, I'm sure that has nothing to do with your son's concerning statistics, like the country's depression rates. Of course, the fact that these anime are the most sought after each season, and that you can count the number of anime in this genre on one hand. Which protagonists actually missed their old life, or weren't killed in the first episode? That must just be a coincidence. Going back to the pinnacle of cinematography, our protagonist. Realizing his peculiar current situation, a flashback comes to his mind about what actually happened. I was riding calmly down the road like every day on my motorcycle, until the vending machine on the truck in front of me tipped over. It fell in my path and caused me to crash on a curve, leading me straight to my doom. Or at least that's what I thought. Summary, a damn vending machine fell right on his face, and now he turned into one. Fascinating. So, my buddy realized his life had become endless torture. With his soul trapped in a box and unable to move, he does the most logical thing. What any of us would do in that situation, start screaming with joy because by a twist of fate, our unnamed protagonist was a fan and enthusiast of vending machines. So the fact that he became one couldn't make him any happier. Which isn't that strange, because in Japan they kind of have an addiction to these machines. There are like 80 million of them, so I guess it makes sense. Damn, I can't wait for the day I fall into a damn can of coffee and reincarnate as one. Look, Morty, I'm a can of coffee. Well, Rick and Morty jokes are kind of from 10 years ago, right? Seriously though, this is what I was talking about a moment ago. Honestly, it's impressive, like an anime, isekai. Leaving your world and life behind is unthinkable. This guy didn't even fit the typical overweight hikikomori image, who hid at home afraid of the sun and people. Yet he seemed happy riding his little scooter off somewhere. Maybe he had dreams, friends, and liked vending machines, and now we're here. Or maybe I'm the weird gaijin from the West who feels sad about leaving his world behind, versus the Eastern Sigma Alpha Chads who, when they see they've been transported to a new world, rather than getting depressed, they accept reality and move on, like true stoics. Yes, of course, and it couldn't be any other way. My buddy, the vending machine, has everything magic and fantasy anime and gacha game fans love. That is stats. Because this guy isn't just any vending machine, he's a vending machine that can turn his contents into any kind of food that the nameless protagonist has tried in his previous life. All for the modest amount of X points he has saved up. Turns out my buddy uses up points just by existing, but he gradually gets them back with each sale. The issue arises when an entire day passes without a customer or even a living being nearby. Until some frogmen with clubs arrive, justifiably see a strange object they don't understand, and start hitting it. I would do the same, but there's no problem since our protagonist Y falls down as expected. He has an absurd range of limitless abilities that save him from various situations, many involving his hands and legs. It wouldn't surprise me if this protagonist suddenly became human. If the slime did it, why can't he? Also, having a protagonist who can't move on his own definitely doesn't make things easier for the author. As I said, while my buddy has many unusable skills because he lacks limbs, he still has some useful ones for the situation. Like a barrier? Are you telling me that this protagonist can literally create an impenetrable shield and become invincible? Of course, if we ignore the small detail that it consumes 1 energy point for every second, the barrier is active, so it's balanced. What if reaching 0 energy points means he dies? It's basically like making a force field using your blood or years of life. He lost over half his points to avoid the frogmen, but at least he survived. Now, the thing is that more than a day has passed and absolutely no one in their right mind has passed by there. Until finally, he appears. Oh my god, what am I seeing? Isn't that just a generic female anime character? Isekai, whose role is just fan service and suggestive angles, will inexplicably fall for the protagonist. Wait a minute. How can a vending machine interact with a real girl? Whatever. The thing is, this girl looks like she's an adventurer or something like that. And I say she looks like one because if she actually is, she'll be the worst damn adventurer you'll ever see in your life. Because what kind of adventurer would go out into the forest completely alone, without any food to, I don't know, survive? I mean, who cares about eating and living? Stuff like that, right? But luckily, she already ran into our metalhead protagonist who can't even communicate. Actually, that's not true. My buddy can communicate with other living beings. Preset phrases, almost all of which are only about selling products. Perfect for communicating with a woman. Hold on. How will our metallic protagonist accept payment if this world likely uses different currencies than ours? Easy, by unlocking a skill that lets him solve that problem. A phrase that will surely be used more than once in this series. This girl asks for soup just because. Meanwhile, in the West, vending machines only dispense alcohol-free drinks like water. At 4 a.m. after chugging 47 liters of beer anally, in the land of the rising sun, vending machines offer anything you want. Following the mentality of the Japanese and to some extent the Koreans. The less I need to talk to someone to get my product, the better. So the day goes by. This girl drinks about 4 more bottles and leaves the bottles on the floor. What a slob. At least the bottles and trash our protagonist leaves vanish after they're used. Biodegradable product at its best. The next day, since this chick slept by the machine, the girl finally decides to show some manners and tells the protagonist her name, which is Lamis. And, well, after the introduction, Lamis offers to take our protagonist to her home. Since someone skilled with magical artifacts is there and she believes they could help him communicate better? My buddy replies yes with his preset phrases, and then Lamis suddenly appears. She casually lifts the 500-kilo machine and carries it home. Lamis, who has super strength, carries the protagonist and mentions she's almost at the next level. But it's nothing more than a village, which, combined with several statements made by other characters around them, subtly suggests that they are inside a dungeon. I'm still reviewing Dungeon Mesh. I promise to finish before the 2nd season is released. The thing is that once they arrive at the village, the guards go completely crazy with this endless supply of food. What did this girl just bring them? Later, Lamis unexpectedly finds a little girl being harassed by bad guys, so he beats them up and rescues her. I said she seems like a little girl, since someone will always comment.
No, man, no, not a little girl. She's like 1,000 years old, the girl, just like that thing, man, like that Pokemon Gardevoir, that one.
Lamis taking our protagonist to that person will have to wait. You have to pay a fee to use the portal to leave this place. Since the blonde spent all her money on the protagonist's goods, will she need to work at an inn to afford the trip? And yes, when I say she'll have to work at an inn, she truly will. Just to be clear, I wasn't using euphemisms for prostitution. Days pass as Lamy repeatedly leaves the protagonist at the inn for passersby to buy from him. This could be considered passive income. At night, she takes him to the guards so they can stock up. It's nice to think that even after becoming a metal box, unable to move on his own, fate allowed him to meet a girl who not only let him move from his place, but it's also her choice. She wants to take him to someone who can check him and possibly help him communicate. I hope someone makes a Laquendo video called I Reincarnated as a Vending Machine, but nobody came to save me, so I became cold and emotionless. And 1,000 years in the Room of Time.
Since no one saved me, my rage made me grow robotic legs, which I didn't really care about. And I went to the nearby town to get revenge on those who didn't save me and to steal all the hot waifus, just because I felt like it.
Lamis gives him the perfect gift. A name. That way, I can stop just calling him protagonist. And that name is none other than Kahan. Yeah, this girl isn't known for her intelligence, as you might guess. At last, an anime character whose name means something. Not like those dumb names like No Way. My protagonist's name is Chupaparonga, because that means protector, guardian of the spiritual wisdom of the Edo era. That name suggests my protagonist is smart, strong, and well-endowed. Unlike what Master Toriyama, rest in peace, used to do. Let's see, what the hell is in the fridge today, man? Days later, however, Kahan feels very pressured by this character, who watches him closely. I wonder why that fearful look, because he's a furry or because he's black. Turns out this guy's the Hunters Association director. Everything reminds me of Hunter. Turns out they want to pull a United States trick and invade another species' space to annihilate them. I mean, give them freedom. Cleverly, my buddy Elfuro wants to bring a crate to supply the soldiers heading to the objective. That's it, time to go. Wait, look, the opening. Damn, those bastards made the Death Parade opening. They hadn't made a relevant opening in a decade. What was I saying? Oh right, the genocide. And while they're on their way to the home of an invasive species, ready to wipe them out completely, we hear the adventurers talking about completely normal things. Whoa, man, have you heard about those damn humanoid toads that have been in heat lately? Yeah, man, I've heard about it, and honestly, I couldn't be more turned on. I mean, happy. More specimens for me to screw. I mean, eliminate, man, but I don't know. But it's getting late. So it's time to set up a shelter where we see a character that would literally be me. If this were an isekai, wouldn't a fringed jacket, unshaven chin, cheeky hat, and fingerless gloves make sense? Help me, I have mental problems. Plus, when he sees the vending machine with all its food options, he just asks for an orange juice. It makes me laugh that the teacher, she now wonders how it's still full of products after so many purchases and no restocking. But who has time to question the logic behind a perpetual food machine? El Basado? He brings in a girl who supposedly knows a lot about magic to evaluate the drawer. But she doesn't detect anything unusual about it. Later, the furry appears and tells Lane,
We're already near the lair of those disgusting toads. Sumia, you and your immobile, defenseless machine that provides our food will stay here safely, right?
Of course not. As an adventurer, I'll go on an adventure, no matter how stupid, irrational, or dangerous.
That's your opinion. But I doubt your friend Kahan will take the risk with his I don't give a damn attitude. It's like their sense of self-preservation went on vacation. And, well, I thought Lamis would keep Kahan far from the battlefield, and that she would get involved in the fight herself. But it turns out this badass had the guts to put Kashan on her back, like a backpack, and fight with him. I mean, this is something Goku would do, for example. And the worst part is, it actually works for her. Not just because Kajon has a force field, but also because having a considerable weight on her back. Lamis now has better balance when throwing punches, which, if we get technical, that detail of having weight on her back could actually help her with balance. If she can't control it, but she would be at a big disadvantage in everything else. Fighting here and there. The girl is supposed to know magic and uses water powers, which I doubt would help much against frogs. But well, who am I to judge? Kahan uses his barrier powers to shield the team. My buddy, the based one, gives him that same look.
Damn, is he revealing me?
Night falls, and oh my god, a soldier tries to use a tool to steal goods from the drawer. Wouldn't that technically be like opening someone up to gut them? Damn, Essence, but it's fine. Miss would never let her infinite supply box suffer any damage. But what these guys didn't count on is that, just like in Terraria, if there's a slime king, there's also a king of these frogs. Damn. Okay, why do the normal frogs look so gross and the king looks like he came straight out of Doom? Also, now there's the little problem that the soldiers are pretty much all screwed. So there's not much to do. So Kahan does what we were all waiting for. What would he do? Give them Coca-Cola and literally transform into a completely different machine that sells mints and then spray the fire toad with Coca-Cola? Surprisingly, it works. This machine is an endless food dispenser and can also transform. I can't wait for its next transformation to literally be Benson and start dispensing products through the Chilito.
How about a couple of mints?
Time to go home and, oh my god, the village is burning. Sons of bitches, who were the monsters eager for mass genocide that destroyed this place. By the way, just in case, had you forgotten this little detail? Kajin can't directly communicate with Lamis because he's restricted to preset phrases. But there comes a point where this girl's deduction about the cryptic messages Kajin sends crosses the line into the ridiculous. For example, insert coins. Insert coins. Wait, we actually have to do something? Seriously, what the hell? What about Lamis's friends in the village? Are they dead? Damn, they really are, my brother. Guts everywhere. Oh, so they hid in the center? A giant monster caused it all just like that.
Pathetic and simple-minded work.
At least they were based and ate the monster that destroyed the village. Good for them. With everyone alive and happy, Kahan has the two most foolish ideas possible. To celebrate nearly the entire village's survival, he decides to give away products that night. And I say it's a bit stupid, because this guy has to spend experience points to restock his inventory. And if he runs out of points, he dies. The only way to recover the points is if people buy from him. Also, I think that's even worse. He was the first to suggest selling alcoholic drinks. After all, a little fun never hurts. But if we assume that these villagers had never tried alcohol before, this could literally drive them crazy. It's like when you give sugar to a baby. So far, the worst is Lamis being flirty. What could go wrong? Exactly nothing. You expected this to lead to everyone going crazy from the drink the next morning. Relax, that hasn't happened yet. Rebuilding the city starts the next day. And well, some guys put a lot of gold coins into Kajaeon just so he can give them change. This series just had the most laughing moment yet, which is really saying something. Kajaeon introduced a system where, for a little bit of money, you can literally play casino games on him to check if you win the product. Incredible. You not only introduced them to alcohol if they hadn't tried it before, but also gave them an addiction that might be even worse. Get ready, villagers. Your souls will be possessed by the great, juicy, and hard gambling addiction. Bet it all, fatty, you son of a bitch. I'm open to casino sponsorships. I'll do anything for money. I'm hungry, man. Later, Furo calls Kahan and Lamis, but asks Lamis to leave them alone. Well, my friend, Furo tells the machine that a lot of people want to move to this city and hopes Kahan will help. He's concerned about food and especially diseases, since people often get sick from poor health and hygiene in these places, which greatly reduces their productivity throughout the year. And he wants Kahan to help change that. Adding also the small detail that those of his species don't usually have that problem, except during their mating season. That's right, this guy and his whole species have a time each year when they're sex machines. Let's hope, for God's sake, they're only like that with their own kind. But knowing how twisted the Japanese usually are, novels often have a strange paragraph where the author gets involved. A bizarre fetish scene, like a furry one. I have no proof, but I have no doubts either. So anyway, time to prevent diseases. And Kahan turns into a new machine. That's right, now the series is called I Reincarnated as a condom vending machine. Yeah, when the furry was talking about diseases reducing productivity, was he referring to that kind of disease? Welcome to ancient Greece. Now we just need to wait for some fool who isn't really a comrade. Gee, for someone to think of bringing women into the orgies, I mean, having sex with a vagina is for absolute sissies. As a true gangsta that I am, I give and receive up the ass. That's what a real brother G does with his brothers. And, by the way, do you remember the girl that Lamis saved from harassment? Well now, constantly, and for some damn reason, she's always nagging that she wants to beat up Kahan. Until one day, she comes crying and saying,
"Oh, my daddy told me if I would come home today, damn old man."
Kaijan acts maturely, giving her juice to help her relax and smile. Now it's time for fan service, as Kaijan isn't human. The teacher saw no issue leaving him outside the hot springs. Then, the girls pass by, and my buddy becomes a shampoo dispenser. Oh my god, look at him. I bet some of you thought, oh, Ben got burnt, after what I said earlier. Guy argues that including perverted characters and sexual references doesn't make the author a pervert. Ah, my god, I don't know about you, but I think the author has more than one weird thing hidden in there. Also, it didn't help that the first thing these female characters say is that their partners did weird things to avoid being in heat. Anyway, the last thing I want to think about is that they're partners. Gee, let's move on to something nicer. This old guy who's been trying all day to win the gambler's prize offered by the drawer. He suddenly invites his granddaughter to try and she wins. The first thing she does is give the water she won to her grandfather. The latter told her that if she won the prize, she'd one day be filled with happiness, so she chose to share it with her grandfather. This brief moment by his side brought her all the happiness she wanted. Not bad at all, huh? Now everything seemed normal, except for the bastard who tried to steal money from the drawer of nothingness and kidnapped him. Now my buddy is off somewhere with someone unknown. Eventually, they reach a mansion and discover the person they've been waiting for is Hirumi. Who? Well, she's the expert in magical tools that Miss mentioned at the beginning. And coincidentally, these guys also kidnapped her so she could analyze the orb and steal all the gold coins it has inside. Surprisingly, Hirumi accurately deduces Kahan's context as a human soul trapped in an object that creates barriers, sets prices, and more. In the end, these two get along pretty well. But at night, those kidnappers enter the room while Hirumi is sleeping, intending to do bad things to him. So Kahan decides to do the most base thing he could have done, turn himself into a dispenser of adult magazines. He's already introduced alcohol, gambling, and pornography. I mean, what is this? The next day, the bastards go to bring food to the kidnapped girl. It's just hard, stale bread, and poor Hirumi is upset because it could have been poisoned. Plus, it's lousy and not nourishing, completely ignoring the tiny detail that she has a vending machine right next to her. But anyway, Kajan obviously feels sorry for her and gives her real food. And not only that, but when she notices the disgusting hair she's got, Rumi gives her hot water and shampoo. Which made me laugh because it reminded me of the typical situation where, well, there was that friend you really liked and all. But are you willing to shell out a couple of euros to give them some cologne as a gift? So that you wouldn't feel like throwing up just by being around them? In the end, it turns out that the mansion is invaded by Lamis and many other soldiers, since obviously she was going to be desperate looking for Kahan. The problem is that the mansion for some reason was full of explosives, and Kahan, along with Hirumi, end up trapped under the rubble. Luckily, my buddy can use his barrier to protect them, but only briefly because of high point usage. That's how it is until Hirumi spots a bag of gold coins nearby, which they manage to grab. And Kahan raises his prices to the maximum so that Hirumi can spend all the gold coins on him, and that way give him an exaggerated amount of points, with which he can maintain the barrier without any problems. Although now another problem comes up, and it's that my buddy, now without any kind of organs, forgot the little detail that humans need oxygen. Trapped underground, Hirumi begins to suffocate. But that's not a problem, because if this series has made one thing clear to me, it's that the Japanese have vending machines for absolutely everything. And apparently in the 90s, there was so much pollution that they set up oxygen vending machines. Yeah, I Googled it, and it really happened. So he could save Hirumi until Lamis found them. What a beautiful reunion. Now, Lamis refuses to be apart from Kahan for any reason. And that's when Hirumi shares her story with the protagonist. She was strong and never wanted to hurt anyone, until monsters attacked the village and killed everyone but them. That's why she's scared of losing loved ones again. Now I should add the funny clip from the generic YouTube Spider-Man noir summary. That's a brutal origin story, but I think I'd rather keep my dignity, at least in that sense. I'm saying this while reviewing the anime about the guy who became a vending machine. That's where we're at, huh? Could I do coke and be a drunk gambler? But I'll never put a clip of Oren play in one of my videos. Later, Sori, the girl obsessed with Kachan, asks him and Hiromi for help, because she needs an artifact flashy enough to win a competition. And, above all, to beat a rival who also turns out to be a girl. The thing is, well, all the competitors present really stupid things. Until the engineer representing Kanashi, Suori's rival, presents something creepy. An automaton capable of reasoning, which Hiromi knows is impossible. Unless a scientist repeats the old sacrilege of putting a human soul into a machine. A scientist attempted that years ago, which resulted in a city exploding and dozens dying. That scares Kahan a little, because maybe he's the result of that macabre experiment. Also, the engineer's automaton fails badly because he put a human soul in it. And this last one just wants to die because of the suffering he's going through. Human souls possessed immortal bodies, while one being pursued immortality by sacrificing many people. It's like watching Full Metal Alchemist, but worse. Honestly, I relate to this problem. A giant restaurant came to the city of nothingness and drew customers from local eateries. But when they realize the big restaurant's food is bad, Kahan gives the city's restaurant owners dishes from his own world, so that they can replicate them and defeat corporatism, which works extremely quickly since the big restaurant closes down forever. Screw you. Something I didn't mention is that it was the group led by Pibe Basado who helped rescue Kahan from the kidnapping. Now he wants their help with a mission. Lamis is unsure whether to accept, as her only goal is to fight and regain strength. Hirumi concludes she seeks revenge. Before things become melodramatic, Kahan turns into a flower vending machine and gives one to Lamis. With so many vending machines in this country, not one can write messages on cards, so this guy can finally communicate. Although, of course, in this world they can't read Japanese. But damn, I don't know, with little drawings or something, maybe you could draw a dick there, a penis? Just draw something really obscene. And after Kahan helped a girl reach a man's heart through food, it's time to leave with Compa Basado's group. We already got rid of the toads, and recently a giant snake monster attacked the city. So now, instead of trying to get rid of the snakes because of what they did to the city, we're targeting other species like toads, snakes, and now crocodiles. Even though they haven't harmed us yet, they enter the forest to hunt their new prey without any real reason. Kahan is now also a bathroom vending machine, as there are machines there with portable bathroom dispensers for emergencies. Japan is something else, isn't it? Luckily, we haven't gotten to use underwear vending machines yet. Anyway, night falls, and it's time to come up with a plan. Which seems unnecessary since Kahan already had one. Turn into an ice dispenser to freeze rivers and force crocodiles out. Yes, it's not enough to just kill them. We'll also ruin their ecosystem and turn the rivers they inhabit into cold, unwelcoming places. Feels like torture for them to live there, forcing them out so we can kill them outside their habitat. This has much more depth than one might imagine. Kajan continues torturing and destroying an entire species' ecosystem, and who knows how many more the others will harm. Hirumi stays with him and explains that each level has a powerful boss that appears only every few years or decades. They were sent to investigate, not mainly for the crocodiles, but because strange things are happening, and the appearance of a boss could explain them. Although it would be quite a coincidence for a boss to appear right now. Right after the boss appears, the badass grabs Hirumi's hand but has to leave Kahan behind. And even though the latter seems to be able to hold on with the barrier, it's most likely that he won't be able to do much. He tries offering cooked meat to avoid being killed by the monster, but it eats him anyway. That's how we create a scene with real substance. My buddy, while inside the creature's stomach, first turns into a detergent machine to mess it up from the inside, and then into a gas dispenser. I mean, the kind that releases gas. After filling its body with gas, he risks turning himself into a microwave to heat something metallic inside, so that the metallic object starts to burn. And then he shoots it out of his barrier, where the monster's stomach is full of gas. The monster floor boss was defeated by an immobile machine that exploded instantly. I mean, oh. It lacked some essence. You needed blood and guts raining from the sky to really make it work. Also, Kahan earned a little medal for defeating the boss. But now, for some reason, the floor splits and my buddy falls into the void. But the only thing he can think about as he falls toward his inevitable death is his companion crying while my buddy was falling. He decides to become a balloon dispenser machine to fill his little bucket with a barrier of floating balloons. And finally, he turns into a dispenser machine made of cardboard to float more easily and fall more slowly. I honestly don't understand the parameters this guy is following to transform himself anymore. He ends up in a maze where he finds some little furry kids and decides to feed them. And the little ones decide to take Kahan with them. The thing is, in this maze, there's a pretty large number of monsters, including a damn giant flaming skeleton. Do you want a t-shirt with that cool skeleton? I mean, like, it's literally the song, The Secret Side of Me. I never let you see. I keep the cage, but I can't control it. Just stay away from me. Same. Anyway, Lamis and the others are in the box with the little furries. They also know Director Oso, the giant furry who spoke earlier about the fellow. So everything worked out. Turns out these bastards just want to defeat Kalaka Cheetah. Also, it's said that those who complete the labyrinth and have one of the medals proving they defeated a boss, they'll be able to make a wish, and Basado offers for Lamis and Kahan to join them so that the latter can wish to return to his human form. Although, considering how useful he is, I don't know if I'd just wish for that, maybe just the ability to speak, or to be able to transform from human to machine at will. And in fact, later on they come up with the idea to use Kahan, turned into a machine that shoots water at high pressure, to fill a well and trap the cool skeleton in there to defeat him. But since it's something that will take several days, well, there's time to talk. That's when Lamis asks Kahan if he would like to be human, and he really isn't sure if that's what he wants. Because he's sure he'd love to be human and chat with her. He knows his vending machine form is far more useful. Honestly, it's pretty cool, though my buddy left out a small detail until now. And the thing is, all this time, the guy had the possibility to unlock a telepathy skill, and up until today, he hadn't unlocked it. Just out of embarrassment. The guy had the chance to have real conversations without needing preset phrases with people. He's been living with this person for months and chose not to do it. What a son of a bitch. In the end, the cool skeleton appears, and surprisingly, it's not computer-generated imagery. He ends up falling into the well, which Kahan cleverly filled with dry ice. He filled the bottom of the well with carbon dioxide, which prevents the skeleton from creating flames. So, once the skeleton is weakened, do you just need to drop something heavy on it to destroy it? I wonder where there might be a big, hard object they could throw at the skeleton. And no, I'm not talking about Ippo's dick. Exactly, everyone there was thinking about throwing Kahan at it. Everyone except Lamis, obviously. So Kahan took a risk and turned into an adult magazine dispenser. He stood in front of her, making her hit him and throw him at the skeleton. So, as he falls and the skeleton dies, well, I don't know if a skeleton can die, but I don't know. It gets wrecked. Kayan gets another coin, uses the balloon trick, cardboard, and barrier to go back up. Now with 2 coins. El Basado offers to buy it for a lot of money, which would help my buddy. But even though Kahan agrees, El Basado says he'll pay later since he has no money now. Not suspicious, huh? Now everyone lives in a tiny village with just 3 houses. There are a few like that here. And that's where they meet Michelle, who seems to be a pretty powerful knight that wants to venture out and explore the labyrinth all by himself. And even though at first Kahan doesn't get a very good feeling about this charming knight who has all the girls going crazy for him, at night he hears him talking to himself and discovers my friend is a Bauchi. He's terrified of talking to people, and being charming and attention-grabbing doesn't help. Still, he tries hard, so Kahan kindly gives him chocolate to cheer him up. Also, Michelle seems to enjoy the company of an object that can't respond to him directly. However, the next day, the latter talks to Lamis to be able to join them on their trip to the labyrinth. The journey goes on as Lamis carries Kahan until he collapses from exhaustion, leading Kahan to an important realization about Lamis. Each month, when she feels down for a few days, he helps by becoming a vending machine for feminine products. You can probably imagine what the poor girl is going through, though I'm surprised Kahan only realized now. Well, she tried to hide it, but now it's impossible. He also uses this chance to become a washing machine. Weeks pass, and it turns out some very bad people are after Michelle. Though my buddy can protect himself, he fears his new friends could be harmed, so he chooses to leave them. Lamis invites him to join the Basado organization, seeking strong members. He thinks it's fantastic, except he forgot to ask the members' names and, embarrassed, doesn't return to ask. That was funny. Now, a food contest sponsored by the Drawer's Unlimited Supplies. Although the furry kids from the Labyrinth joined, Sui from Basado's troop won. Her prize was spending an entire day with Drawer, doing whatever she wanted. My buddy, the Robophile, seeing that possibility. But fortunately for Drawer, Sui simply took him to a poor neighborhood where there are many abandoned children who haven't been able to move on to the next level. They've had to stay alone in those caves with an old woman caring for them. So she gave them a day where they could eat whatever they wanted, have hot water, and even balloons. What a beautiful day. After mentioning a beautiful day, the mood shifts as Basado asks Cajon and Lamis to join him somewhere frightening. And the latter doesn't want to go because she's scared, which I don't understand at all. I mean, why would you be scared? A nearly abandoned town where real ghosts and zombies randomly appear? Of course. There's a dangerous boss there, so the group explores casually. While one returns to the base to find companions for the mission, Lamis overcomes her fears. Even if it's just box for company. And speaking of the latter, he was left completely alone outside the inn, in this last village. But the spirits didn't attack him since they only felt envy toward the living, and they saw him as one of their own. As days passed, a small zombie boy appeared before him, not even understanding what he was. Cajon, feeling pity, gave him a toy which the zombie boy bit through. The curious thing is that the boy came back again and again. Cajon would give him a juice as a sign of affection, since it seemed he grew fond of the little one. One day, Cajon had to join the expedition with the others, and the zombie boy approached him, but his fellow adventurers, upon noticing him, essentially killed him right in front of his eyes. They were surprised the boy only had a simple bronze coin which couldn't buy anything. He didn't appear to have bad intentions. He just wanted to imitate those interacting with Cajon by putting a coin into one of his products for the first time, and the latter couldn't do anything about it at all. Thank you, anime, and you fall into comedy. Thank you for making it clear that you're a comedy anime. Thank you very much. Turns out my buddy brought the little furries and Michelle, who surprisingly managed to find this guy's group. Now they face the final boss, the King of Souls, a cool skeleton defeated with gasoline, fire, and a bit of boom. Did I hit you? But the plot twist is that another final boss appears, who, like any good final boss, eliminates his own henchmen. Why? Just because. This bastard literally left Sui and Hirumi for dead. Using brute force, Lamis broke the Underworld Lord's weapon, and the enemy reacted predictably. Cliché. He calls her Diablo, my crazy girl, with that little hand. You broke my bone. That's nice, crazy girl. Get stronger and come break my bone another day. I have one bone bigger than the other. That's it. Boss lets them go, and Kahan becomes a resurrection kid. And he uses skill points to, redundantly, get an ability that lets him telepathically control the resurrection kit. Since these things are already complicated for us, they must be even harder for them. With this kit, they revive Sui and Hirumi, and everyone is happy. And Lamis takes Kahan for a walk to the same place where she found him at the beginning. Interestingly, both Hirumi and Sui follow him and thank the machine with a kiss. Lamis then does the same, ending with the phrase, "All of this seemed crazy, but now I wish I could stay here forever." Robophilia is coming, it's key. The anime is fun and light, though I expected more parody. It can be a bit too serious sometimes, but as a joke, it's decent. Now let's see what the series offers. The second season airing? Well, there are a lot of fans of anime with only one season who must be crying right now. But anyway, my only regret with this series is that bastard Kajan didn't learn telepathy. To tell Lamis the phrase every machine should know, this one